Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting version of Chip Talks Health. Today, we're going to talk about your gut biome and your gut biome in relation really to immune defense. So, what is our first line of defense and, where does that war be fought? It turns out that's really in the gut biome. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to talk a little bit about the endocannabinoid system and we're going to talk about some things that you might do at home to be able to, let's say, bolster your immune system through your gut biome and controlling your gut biome. So, first of all, we need to level set. We need to talk a little bit about, let's say, how you work. Um, if I go to Home Depot and buy a lawnmower or a leaf blower, I get a manual for that thing, right? So I get a care and feeding of my lawnmower or leaf blower. Right now, we really don't get a manual for this thing that we drive, but this thing that we drive every day is very much like a machine, and it's very much like a lawnmower or a car or something that you could certainly write an operations manual around. However, if you go out and try to find this information for yourself, it is going to be an ocean of chaos and confusion. So let me try to break that down a little bit for you guys. And again, what is my frame of reference and my litmus? Well, it's the endocannabinoid system. And as I teach you about the endocannabinoid system, it turns out that information about your immune system, information about what you should eat, information about when you should eat it, all that type information just kind of naturally falls out as I teach you about the endocannabinoid system. So this is why it's such a great frame of reference and a great teaching tool. Is because it just, for whatever reason, it's logical and ordered, and it is able to cut through the chaos and confusion that a lot of us have suffered under, let's just say, with trying to understand from the medical profession and trying to understand from, let's say, average joes, how this thing works, the operations manual. So let's start with the most important thing that we do every day, and that's generate energy, right? So without energy, without moving electrons, this thing isn't alive. So the most important thing that I do every day is I generate energy. And I do that through mitochondria. We'll get to the gut biome in a second, I promise. But we got to go kind of top down, right? So as we go top down, we're going to understand function a lot better than if we start from the ground up. So to use an analogy, I'm going to talk to you about your car from the perspective of the steering wheel, the engine, its ability to kind of defend you against the environment, and things like that. We're not going to start with internal piston pressure because that would be way too confusing. Okay. So we're going to talk top level down. That's going to help us understand this gut biome, our immune system, how it's related to the gut biome, and all that. But we got to kind of start at the top level. So you generate energy from three different fuel substrates. So glucose, which is by far and away the least efficient and not really where we want to be. Dietary fats is how we're designed. So we're a big fat machine. We store dietary fats. Dietary fats build our master regulatory system called our endocannabinoid system. The two most important foods you eat every day are dietary fats, omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, and you need to eat those in balance. So again, we generate energy from fat. That's really kind of how we're designed to run. And then there's a third substrate, light. So we know that plants generate energy from light through photosynthesis. And believe it or not, you kind of do some of that inside of you in kind of a backwards way, which is really weird. But anyway, you do a little bit of that, but that's a little bit too far out there for most people. So we're going to stick to glucose and fat. All right. Again, when you eat a meal, because you are a fat machine, you have to basically go to a different fuel substrate because you're dealing with fat, right? So you can't be burning and operating on fat at the same time you're trying to store it and manage it and evaluate it and all that. So when we eat, we go over into glucose mode for 5 hours. If you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner and energy drinks and snacks in between, you never get out of glucose mode. That's very dangerous. We're 50 times less powerful, let's say, when we're in glucose mode. So we don't have the same robustness in our immune system. We don't have the same robustness in our ability to fight disease. And we don't really have the same robustness, let's say, in being able to defend ourselves against our own gut biome. So we want to operate, we want to stay down here as little as possible. And this is why we really preach intermittent fasting as a tool, and a tool to help with your immune system, your general health. Not really so much for weight loss, but that's a consequence of intermittent fasting, is your body will find kind of that natural normal weight for you, and you'll, stick at that weight, which is kind of a cool thing. Most of us carry too much weight. But anyway, intermittent fasting helps with all that. But the biggest thing it does is really help with our additional power. So when we're burning fat in our immune system, we're pretty robust. So we've got I'm a Star Trek guy, right? So I like to use analogies to help explain things. And so if you think about our shields as our immune system, okay, well, every time we eat a meal, we kind of drop our shields. So we don't want to eat a meal and fly into the Klingons. That would be a bad idea. And we're going to get dents and dings, meaning we're going to get infected with pathogens. We're going to get infected with things in our biome and other places in our bodies that shouldn't be infected. Okay. And if we don't understand how to run our immune system, that's going to happen. And that's happening to all of us right now because we don't understand how to run our immune system. But in a fasted state, so 5 hours after you've just eaten, you're way more robust. So we've got strong shields. Again, if we're eating equal amounts of omega-3 and omega-6, we've got very powerful shields that will defend us against invaders. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about how this works and where would we get invaded by things. Well, anywhere where we're open to the air, right? And so anywhere where we're open to the air, we're going to have a biome associated with that, let's say, situation. Why? Because again, we're breathing in or we're eating, microbes all the time. And so we have to have some kind of a situation that will help us digest our food and also protect us against, bad bugs that might be coming in through our food. Or, it's back in the day, we used to eat all kinds of probably contaminated, vegetables and things like that. Well, you need a mechanism to protect you from that. You need a mechanism to protect you from funguses and molds and things like that. So again, that all starts kind of at the point of contact. So when we're breathing in air or we're putting things in our mouth that go into our guts, there's a mucosal layer that's associated with all of that. And then there's bacteria that kind of live in that mucosal layer. And here's kind of the way that it works. And this is the easiest way to really explain how the biome works. So, and we'll be putting out way more information about this because this is just a really rich area for information. But if you look at, like, if you're a meat eater, okay, so if you eat red meat, you're going to need certain types of bacteria to help you digest that red meat. All right. And those bacteria will be allowed to grow in your biome, and your biome will promote those bacteria because you need help digesting certain types of meat. Chicken is different. Pork is different. If you cook those things in oil, now you've added another complexity that will have a need, let's say, to generate different kinds of bacteria in your gut biome. Also, if you eat a lot of carbohydrates, again, carbohydrates are a little bit harder to digest. If there are insoluble, let's say, fibers in plants, and those things are good for your biome. They will promote, good types of bacteria. But at the same time, you need certain types of bacteria to digest or help you try to digest those insoluble fibers. So when you eat things, you are building your biome. You are communicating back and forth with your body as to what type of biome you're building through your diet. Okay. So all this is configurable. That's kind of cool and kind of scary at the same time because we know so little about this, really. But again, I can change. Let's kind of go here. So there's two major classes of bacteria in your gut biome, and they should be about balanced. We think, Again, this is new stuff, but they should be about balance. So one type of bacteria is called Firmicutes, and Firmicutes are high calorie guys. So they like a lot of calories, the bacteria, and they produce some anti-inflammatory, let's say short chain fatty acids that are useful. But again, you don't want an overgrowth, let's say, of Firmicutes bacteria. The other type of bacteria are called bacteroids. And again, in an overgrowth, let's say, of Firmicutes, you're going to be obese, you're going to have metabolic syndrome, you're likely going to have diabetes, you're likely going to have issues with your heart. In an overgrowth of bacteroids, you're going to have more leaky gut type symptoms, IBS, Crohn's, things like that. So in either instance, we don't want those things to happen because, again, they leave us weak and they leave our immune system weak to certain types of attacks. So we want a real balanced Firmicutes and bacteroid type situation. Well, how do you promote one over the other? Again, what you eat. So fiber in a fermenter really helps control, and it looks to be the Firmicutes are really the guys that are most out of control right now and causing us the most damage. But that's not to say bacteroids can't do it too. But Firmicutes are likely what are making us obese and overweight. They appear to be the biggest problem right now. So how do you deal with them? And can you deal with them on your own? Yeah, absolutely. Fiber in a fermenter. Okay. Or we have built a product, and it's a product, a weight loss product, but it works through the endocannabinoid system. It works through a endocannabinoid called ethanol oleomide that's built from oleic acid, and it is the satiety molecule. It controls all the stuff the semaglutides are trying to control, the GLP-1s and the GIPs and the peptide YYs and all those guys. So those are all actually controlled a little bit higher up in function by the endocannabinoid system. So our product targets that and that receptor, which works very well. And then we also target bacteria that can cause, let's say, alterations in that satiety molecule, because, we are always considering that we have third parties, because we do have third parties. So you have third parties that are wanting to live on, inside of you, and they'll literally do anything to stay alive. So they'll hijack your immune system. They'll keep you from absorbing things. They'll change your bile. They'll do all manner of things to stay alive. But we recognize that, and we, let's say, account for that in our product formulary and our product formulations. And this is why we have really advanced products that are, some of them, are literally will be drugs in the future. They'll be a little bit more powerfully made, but they certainly could have the potential to become drugs. So anyway, sorry to go down that rabbit hole, but we do have solutions. And so, part of what I want to do in these podcasts is give everybody, let's say, the ability to heal themselves or help begin to heal themselves at home. So I want to empower you with this knowledge that I feel like God has given me, and that's part of the deal. I got to pass it along. But at the same time, we do have products. So in True Medics, we have product that will work for, let's say, obesity, metabolic syndrome, or has been shown to work for. And we have product that will work for almost anything, pathogens, deworming ourselves. H. pylori is a big problem right now. So we have built product that have, we're getting, let's say, anecdotal reports that those products work very, very well for the things that we've designed them for. So just remember that always, in True Medics, we have products that work and work as designed. So now back to the biome. So we've got this biome, and it is configurable, which is nice. If you want to, again, you can whack it out in any way you want to through diet, but the best things are to look at really, let's say, categories of dietary things, and try to provide our bodies with what our bodies want in those categories of dietary things. All right. So that sounds nebulous and confusing. So let me break that down a little bit more. What do I mean by that? Well, absolutely, to your body, the most important thing that you put in your mouth every day are dietary fats. There are four types of dietary fats: saturated fat. And again, if you eat saturated fat, like meat, like animal products, you're going to have a certain type of bacteria that you need to help you digest those fats. Fats are the most complicated thing that we eat because they require, you have to basically emulsify the fat in order for you to get to uptake it. And it's got to be in pretty small little vesicles or micelles in order for you to really pull it in as a nutrient. So there's a lot of, let's say, action with fat. And again, you're storing fat on triglycerides. So there's an evaluation process when you eat that the liver does, and it's looking out at what you have stored in fat. And it's asking, is what I just ate better than what I have stored? If it is, then it's going to pull in what you have stored. So it's going to begin to move triglycerides around, pull those into your liver and reconfigure those triglycerides, and then pop them back out to the fat to store them. Okay. So your body is always trying to optimize the fats that you eat. But let's talk about fats real quick, because again, if we want the proper biome, we have to hit fats on the money or pretty close to on the money in these percentages. Okay, so of the fats that we eat, about 30% of the fat that we eat should be saturated fat. Now, for most of us, we eat probably 60 or 70% saturated fat right now. So that's a big change. About 50% of our fat should be monounsaturated fat. That offsets the saturated fat. It is anti-inflammatory. You build your satiety molecules from monounsaturated fat, and you build all kinds of a kind of endocannabinoid that's very important called OEA that you build from monounsaturated fat. Again, it should be about 50% of our fat profile. Right now, it's maybe 5, maybe. If you eat nuts and seeds, then it's probably a little bit higher than that. But you find monounsaturated fat in nuts and seeds mainly. It's also in olive oil. So, and again, olive is a seed, and the oil of said seed would contain monounsaturated fat, as most seeds and nuts do. Okay, so the other two types of fats, and these are the most important foods that you eat every single day. They are omega-3 and omega-6 fats. How do these relate to your immune system? If you overconsume omega-6 fats and let's put it this way. If you equally consume omega-3 and omega-6 fat, and let's say you have a dust allergy, all right, you should be able to walk into a dusty room. You might get a little bit of a runny nose, but you're going to mitigate and handle that allergic situation very, very well. And it's not going to cause you undue discomfort. In our current situation, because we eat so many omega-6s over omega-3s, that sets a very reactionary and inflammatory tone in our immune system. So in this scenario, the scenario that we all live under right now, one little dust mite can cause this incredible overreaction in our immune system that's way too inflammatory and reactive. And that's happening to us all right now. And that confuses your immune system. So again, it's going to react to anything in a huge way. Very easy to fix, though, just to eat more omega-3s. That dials back that reactivity and gives us this equal and dynamic state. So about 10% of our fat intake should be omega-3, and about 10% should be omega-6. And we can play around with those percentages a little bit. But again, this goes to how you're conforming every single cell wall. Omega-6s are sticky. Omega-3s are slick. So again, you don't want a bunch of sticky cells running around your blood. That's how plaque forms. So eating omega-3 and omega-6 in proper ratio, probably the most important health tip I could give you other than intermittent fasting. Okay. Why? Because again, you're giving your gut biome these messages. You have to have help breaking down these oils into, micelles, and the bacteria associated with our biome helps. But eating the right types of fats in the right ratio will basically promote a proper biome. Okay. What is the next most important thing past dietary fats? It's protein. Again, protein, so fat is digested through a certain enzyme that comes from the pancreas. Protein is digested in a different way, okay, with a different enzyme. So it requires some additional help, let's say, from the gut biome. If you're a vegan, you're going to need more diversity in your biome in order to help you digest plant-based proteins. Okay, plant-based proteins are harder to digest than animal-based proteins. But you're designed to do it, right? You're just going to need a little bit more advanced biome. But as we add, again, a new thing, protein, and there's 9 essential amino acids that we should get every single day. So protein is nothing more than a string of amino acids. And there's 9 essential amino acids that we need every day. But again, the biome helps us digest these animal, basically proteins into all of those 9. So it helps us break those down into all of the 9. And then basically we reconstitute those in different ways as your cells are trying to build proteins. That's what cells want to do, is build proteins so they can talk to each other. It's like their voice mechanism. Blah, they spit out proteins. All right. So, but if you don't have amino acids to be able to make the proteins they need, they won't make them. They know talkie to each other, and that's not what we want. Okay. And then the last kind of category of stuff is carbohydrates. Again, some plants are super hard to digest. They have insoluble fibers in them. Chlorophyll is not, chloroplasts and things like that are not the easiest things to break down for your body. Chlorophyll actually is really good for your blood and is a good blood helper. If plants use chlorophyll as their blood system, we use blood, right? So that's how they move things around and carry oxygen and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so carbohydrates are difficult to digest. Again, we need a whole different kind of bacteria in the gut biome to digest those. All right. So pretty complicated stuff that's going on in our gut biome, and pretty complicated stuff that's going on to help us digest these foods. But the big thing is it's all configurable. So again, if you start, let's say you stopped eating animal protein and became a vegan, that would completely change the conformation of your biome. Again, depending on the foods that you ate within those categories, we could drive, let's say, certain types of bacterial changes in the biome, which is really, really cool. So as we begin to understand more and more, let's say, about the biome, and I'll give you an example of this. We've got an instrument here. It's an informational instrument. It can't diagnose anybody, but it's really good at kind of educational stuff about what's going on in the gut at any given time. And it's really good or useful, let's say, at information about pathogenic type bacteria. So I recently got sick. And I never get sick, so you never say that. And I had said that a couple of months ago, then whammy, of course, I get sick. But I hardly ever get sick. I've got a really strong, good, robust immune system. But anyway, I got sick. And so it was a perfect opportunity to hook me up to the scanner and see kind of what's going on inside of me. Was really interesting. I expected to see, like, let's say, something like the flu, which I did see, influenza in my lungs. But how does that relate to the biome and what changes were going on in the biome? Well, I saw all these little fever producing critters kind of pop up, and these, kind of, let's say, diarrhea producing critters pop up in my biome. Why? Because again, I got attacked by something. I got infected by something, and my biome responded, some with helpful stuff and some with not so helpful stuff. But as we begin to understand this more and more, again, there's ways to prompt, let's say, an immune kick up. So let's say you're getting ready to go on an airplane with a bunch of, I don't want to be in a tube with 150 other people that are likely sick, and, certainly not after I've just eaten a meal. So, if you're getting ready to have a situation like that, there's likely things that we can do, things that you could eat that would kick up the power of your immune system and put you in kind of a better, let's say, defensive position. So super important stuff, right? Right now, we're just all running around naked and afraid and not knowing much about these practices and principles at all. But my hope is that I am empowering you. So I want to empower you with this information and knowledge so that you can begin to change your habits, your eating habits. Hopefully, you'll intermittent fast. Hopefully, you'll eat more omega 3s. And again, we've got products in True Medics. So if you're looking for ways to do that, we have products that will support you. So anyway, but it's really all about your personal empowerment, your personal journey, and understanding how configurable you are. And it just, to me, that just glorifies God. God gave us this beautiful vehicle. Our kind of task is to understand it, understand how it interfaces with nature and the earth, and maximize it, right? So that's what we'll be doing here on Chip Talks Health, is we'll be talking to you guys about longevity, about maximizing your immune system, how to defend yourself. What is the cause of disease? The core cause of disease, it's infection, right? So it's, we don't, we're pretty robust. We're, without, let's say, any bad things happening to us, we're going to live a long time. We're going to be super healthy. Every cell inside of us is always going to strive toward perfect function. So that's a good place to leave it today. We'll be back next week with another exciting version of Chip Talks Health. We will see you guys then.